Hi, it's Emily Gunn. I am presenting my Module 16 case study of our missing booster club funds. A little background on the case, um, a little summary of what has happened. Mr. Stevens is the principal at a middle school of about 450 students. He doesn't have an assistant principal, and there's three athletic activities that he is in charge of overseeing. And since he doesn't have any help, he relies heavily on parent volunteers, specifically through PTA or Booster Club, to help him with those things. Typically, there are two adults manning the concession stand and two adults running gate, collecting money and handing out tickets. Lucy, a student of Mr. Stevens, recently made an all-state cheerleader, and she was invited to march in a holiday parade in New York, and it's going to cost her family almost $800 to participate in this. Mr. Stevens announced her accomplishment publicly, congratulated her, and then shortly following that, Lucy's mother, Mrs. Bowman, made an appointment with Mr. Stevens to talk to him about this trip. Mrs. Bowman was requesting that the school use PTA monies that were raised to pay for Lucy's trip. Mr. Stevens explained to her that those monies were designed to support projects or activities that supported all students or a majority of students, not just one student, and so told her that he would not be able to approve that purchase. Shortly after that, there was an event held at the school. A patron spoke with the principal, telling him, oh, he'd just gotten paid and all he had was a $50 bill to pay to get into the game. At the end of the evening, he collected the funds and was counting them in front of the security guard and noticed that they were short $50. Mrs. Bowman had noted that there were some tickets that were torn, so they had to be discarded of, 10 tickets in particular, and the amount of money missing was equal to 10 tickets. And the $50 bill that the patron had told him that he paid with was not in the money bag. So the first category is problem identification and analysis. So what do I know? I know that the PTA collects and monitors the gate proceeds. It says there's supposed to be two people working there. One person to hand out the tickets, one person to collect the money. I also know that Mrs. Bowman wants the PTA to fund Lucy's trip. I'm guessing that the socioeconomic status of the school might affect the Bowmans. I also know that activity fund spending guidelines say that money is raised to benefit all students, and so we must make sure that we're spending that to benefit all students or a majority of students, not just a few. I know there's $50 missing from the ticket sale proceeds, and that Mrs. Bowman gave the money or the money bag back to Mr. Stevens at the end of the night, stating that there were 10 tickets that had to be disposed of. So what I still need to know is who collected the gate money? Who were the people working the gate? Who was responsible for the money coming in, and who was responsible for the tickets? I need to know if those people then gave that money to Mrs. Bowman, who then gave it to Mr. Stevens, or how the money got back to Mr. Stevens and who all touched the said money bag. I need to know why the torn tickets were thrown away. I would say that, if a ticket is unusable, probably put it back in the money bag and say unusable tickets, so you could identify that, hey, there were indeed 10 tickets that were damaged, misnumbered, whatever the problem might be. And were the event procedures followed, or were there really even any event procedures in place? So the problem here is that there is $50 missing from the gate proceeds, and I need to find out where that money went. So, category 2, my proposed plan of action. The first thing that I would do is probably speak with Mr. Dumas, the patron who said, hey, I just got paid and I used a $50 bill to get into the event. I would probably just follow up with him with a phone call. Hey, I was just following up with you. We've had a little situation here at the school, and I vaguely remember you telling me that you just gotten paid and you had to pay with a $50 bill. Is that what you told me? Just to kind of confirm with him that he did indeed pay with the $50 bill that is not in the money bag, just to confirm that that was truly what happened. What did he really pay with the $50 bill, or was he just saying that? I don't know, maybe he's in cahoots with the money being missing. But I would just follow up with him to begin with. And then my next step would be to locate the missing money. Again, I would find out who was taking money at the gate. Who are the people that were working at the gate? And I would meet with them and talk to them about the procedures, the torn tickets, or what was wrong with the tickets, where did the torn tickets go, because I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. If there really were tickets missing, let's find out why, if we threw those away, etc., and who was handling the money from the people coming in the gate and then the people reporting the money. So kind of follow the trail of money and talk to all of those people. I would also ask Mrs. Bowman about who handled the money. I would explain to her that there's, money missing, and so we're just trying to track it down, and we want to know the hands that the money filtered through so we can get to the bottom of it. I would interview all of those people, talk to them. If I felt like we weren't really getting anywhere and we just kept hitting brick walls, it might be a time that you could involve local authorities to help you do some of the interrogation or questionings just to get the $50 back. After that, I would probably tighten up my gate procedures and my event procedures. I would see what procedures and policies we have in place, and if there are none, I would definitely put some in place. It sounds like there were some, inventory matching, and they're using pre-numbered tickets, so I think those just need to be tightened up. Would probably notify the Booster Club and PTA that, there was missing money. There was some money missing. It's unclear who, what, when, where, why, but that we're tightening up our procedures and our policies, and those will be expected to be followed. The other thing I would probably do is have a trusted staff member or rotate the staff members through overseeing the collection of monies from gates at events. So resolve the issue based on promoting the success of students. So promoting the success of all students, we really have to start looking at our guidelines for student activity funds. Those monies are raised to benefit a majority or all of the students. So by not funding a single student's trip to nationals, that's really supporting all students. One could see this differently. I could see us saying, we will give you a small portion towards that, but we're not going to fund it because it doesn't benefit everyone. We need to tighten up the gate procedures and policies in order to ensure that we are getting the most fundraising and most funding available to the appropriate student groups to actually benefit our students. And I really feel like there's a strong involvement from the PTA, a lot of volunteering going on, very strong involvement there. I would continue that, and that does promote student success. But I also feel like we could partner that with some staff members and start building relationships between staff members and our PTA members. So to debrief the problem, to talk about what I was thinking, feeling, and valuing, the whole time I was like, there really aren't any clear-cut policies written. They're not in place. Where are the policies? We need to have all of that. And I was like, where did these torn tickets go from? And at one point it sounded like maybe there was 2, 78 and 88, or maybe there were 10. I'm not sure. The language was maybe a little bit unclear, so the note needed to be cleared up. And something clearly went wrong. Was it theft or was it not? Was it somebody miscalculated on how much they were charging? I don't know. I was very excited about the number of people that appeared to be in attendance at the event. Getting people in the building is sometimes a hurdle and a challenge. I was very excited for the school and that there are a lot of people coming in and supporting what's happening. I was It's also very empathetic for Mrs. Bowman. $800 is a lot. And trying to get your daughter to, she's being recognized, and to make sure she gets there to get that recognition is very important. And so it's very empathetic. You could see how she feels when, she's denied that. But, was it theft? And it was $50. I mean, it's not a large amount of money, but it's still $50 that's unaccounted for. And would Mrs. Bowman steal $50 when she clearly needed closer to $800? I valued the relationships that Mr. Stevens has built with the PTA and keeping them involved and them volunteering. And I value the relationships that he has obviously with the community members, because he is very well liked. So there's just a lot of emotions that go through when there's money missing, and you have to kind of walk on eggshells a little bit when questioning people to ensure that no one feels attacked. So some unresolved issues still is who stole the money, or where did it go? I mean, that's the biggest unresolved issue. I'm not sure at this point that I have enough information to even know who or where the money went. You would have to do that by talking to the parties involved. And the other unresolved issue are what policies are in place and what procedures are in place. We've got to tighten up those gate procedures. And, and maybe this is a good example for Mr. Stevens to take to his local school board and say, hey, I need some help at athletic events. Let's pay some staff members to be there to help with gate procedures, or we need an athletic director to kind of oversee some of these things. So I feel like there are still some unresolved things. We don't know who stole the money. We've got to get some clear policies. We've got to get some clear procedures in place for the handling of money at school events. So the last category is to reflect on Standard 8. How do I as a school leader promote effective and efficient management of the school or district? Well, Mr. Stevens followed activity fund guidelines by denying their request because it didn't benefit a majority of the students. There was an attempt to have some safeguards in place by having pre-numbered tickets, and it says there was 2 workers. So those are good. Those will promote efficient and effective management. And he also had a security guard escort him with that money to his car to ensure that it got safely to its next destination. The second component is how do I as a school leader promote the social learning of every student? We have a very active PTA, which is really great to keep kids and their families connected to the school. Mr. Stevens is well liked by students, parents, the community. He does very well by utilizing parent volunteers. He publicly reported Lucy's accomplishment, publicly being her cheerleader, and he very respectfully handled Mrs. Bowman's request so that she understood why he was denying her request because it did not benefit all students. And component 3 is how do I promote academic learning? Again, the PTA is very active. Not only do they volunteer for athletic events, it says that they volunteer and come in to, they have reading buddies, program for middle school students. They help with after school events. They come during the day. So that PTA is very active and promotes also academic learning as well as the social and athletic side of the school. Again, Mr. Stevens is well liked. I think that says the school is doing good things under his leadership, that learning is happening. He utilizes those volunteers, and he really followed activity fund spending guidelines very well so that everyone knew what the policies and procedures are. I just feel like maybe some of those policies need to be confirmed, shored up, and communicated a little bit better to the appropriate parties. Thank you for watching.